Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 4th of September, from the sports section. Rangers vs St Johnstone kick-off time. SPFL face scheduling nightmare. Rangers' Scottish Premiership match with St Johnstone next month could be moved to Sunday night due to logistical challenges. The Glasgow club confirmed they will return to Ibrox on the 21st of September for their Premier Sports Cup tie with Dundee, after playing this season's opening home games at Hampden due to building delays at Ibrox. The Copland stand will remain closed while the remaining works are completed. Rangers' Premiership clash with St Johnstone is due to take place 2 weeks later, but fans are still awaiting confirmation of the kick-off time as the FPFL faces huge logistical issues. Philippe Clement's side host Lyon in the Europa League on Thursday the 3rd of October, meaning the St Johnstone game will push back to Sunday the 6th of October. This will see the match clash with the Great Scottish Run, meaning all major access routes to Ibrox will be closed for a large part of the day as competitors take part in the half marathon and 10k events around Glasgow. The run begins at 8:30 with staggered start times until 12, making a 3 p.m. kick-off in Ibrox nightmare for organisers. It could therefore see the game being moved back to 5 p.m. or even 8 p.m. That was an article by Lana Mackay. Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 4th of September, from the sports section. Rangers confirm the date they'll return to Ibrox, but there's a twist. Rangers have confirmed the date for their long-awaited return to Ibrox. The Glasgow Giants have announced they will be back playing on home turf for the Premier Sports Cup quarter-final tie against Dundee on Saturday, September the 21st. However, while they will be back at Ibrox, they will take on their fellow Scottish Premiership side with only 3 stands available to fans. That's because the final works will still need to be concluded to the Copland stand. A short statement on the club's website reads, Rangers Football Club today confirms our Premier Sports Cup tie with Dundee on Saturday the 21st of September will be played at Ibrox Stadium, excluding the Copland stand, where final concourse and seating works are ongoing. All areas of our home will be open for this match. Season ticket holders from the Copland stand will be offered an exclusive window to purchase seating elsewhere. The Continuous Credit Card Scheme, or CCCS, will return for this game for all supporters, excluding those in the Copland stand. Tickets for this 5:30 p.m. kick-off are priced at £23 for adults, £17 for concessions and £11 for juniors. Philippe Clement and his players have been utilising Hampden Park for their home matches since the beginning of the 2024-25 campaign. This match will bring an end to that arrangement with the Scottish FA, which was sparked following a delay to the order of materials earlier this summer. Meanwhile, Rangers face an injury sweat over Rabbi Matondo after he was forced off against Celtic. The winger was unable to continue at Celtic Park after appearing to pick up a hamstring issue in the first half. Matondo had to be replaced by Ross McCausland after 38 minutes. Now the winger has pulled out of the Wales squad during the international break. That was an article by Ewan Payton. The Herald, Wednesday the 4th of September, from the sports section. Huge Scotland squad reshuffle as 4 out and 3 drafted in by Clark. Steve Clark has been forced into a significant Scotland squad reshuffle after 4 players dropped out. Celtic duo James Forrest and Greg Taylor are both out of contention to face Poland and Portugal, with Robbie McCrory and Che Adams also not out of the squad. As a result, Clark has added 3 players to his pool ahead of the Nations League matches later this month. Rangers summer signing Connor Barron has been called into the national team, with Josh Doig returning to the fold, and Dundee goalkeeper John McCracken handed his first call-up. So the Scotland squad update: in, Connor Barron, Josh Doig and John McCracken. Out, Che Adams, James Forrest, Robbie McCrory and Greg Taylor. That was an article by David Irvin. Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 4th of September, from the sports section. Crystal Palace star hails brilliant relationship with Daizan Medea. Crystal Palace star Daichi Kamada reckons he has established a telepathic partnership with Celtic ace Daizan Medea, on and off the pitch. Medea was one of Celtic's heroes on Sunday as they cruised to another Old Firm victory after he opened the scoring at Parkhead. He is currently preparing for Japan's crucial World Cup double-header qualifiers against China and Bahrain this week, along with Hoops colleague Ryo Hatate. Fellow Old Firm hero Kyoja Furashi wasn't called up again. Maeda is likely to start today's game in Saitama with Palace ace Kamada, and the former Eintracht Frankfurt and Lazio star was full of praise for Medea. He said, "The player I would hate to face in a game is Daizan Medea, because I don't like coming up against players who run a lot. We have a brilliant relationship on and off the pitch. We sit together on the bus. We eat dinner, lunch and breakfast together. We always go to the sauna together. He even fetches me sweets and coffee even when I haven't asked for them. Daizan is a type of person that everyone loves. I remember when he first came into the Japan team and he wasn't really interacting with anyone. But I started talking to him, we became friends and hit it off. And we have taken that relationship onto the pitch too, which is good for the Japan, which is in excellent form too." That was an article by Mark Walker.
The Glasgow Times on Thursday the 5th of August 2024. From the sport section. Arnie Engels responds to Felipe Clement's Celtic v Rangers poser. This article was written by David Irvine. It's being read by me, Corey. I apologise, but your usual reader had an emergency and was unable to read today. Arnie Eagles couldn't help but smile when asked about his interaction with Felipe Clement ahead of his Celtic debut against Rangers. The £11 million summer signing spoke with Ibrox manager Clement ahead of the Derby showdown on Sunday. Engels was pictured smiling with fellow countryman Clement hours before kick-off, where Celtic would sweep aside Rangers 3-0. After being called up by Belgium, Engels was quizzed on the interaction, and whether Clement wished he was on the Rangers bench rather than Celtic. One journalist asked, "Did he, Clement, say he would have preferred to have you sitting on his bench?" Engels responded, "I don't know, but I think so. It's not for me to say. I am now a Celtic player, and I am immensely proud of that." Engels stepped off the bench in the second half for Celtic and was taken aback by the atmosphere as he hailed the incredible supporters. "It's different to playing in Augsburg, playing at a top-table club and fighting for trophies," he said of moving to Celtic. "The new format of the Champions League was very nice to make that choice, to show myself at the highest level. The fans are great. From what I've experienced in the match against Rangers, it was incredible. Being there and seeing how much fans get behind the team was really beautiful to experience. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the sport section. It was written by David Irvine, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 5th of August 2024. From the sport section. Václav Cerny in Major Celtic vs Rangers admission. This article was written by Mark Walker and is being read by me, Corey. I apologise, but your usual reader had an emergency and is unable to read today. Rangers star Václav Cerny has admitted they were outclassed by Celtic in the Old Firm derby. The on-loan Wolfsburg winger was a starter for Felipe Clement's side on Sunday, but made little impact in the match as the Hoops cruised to a 3-0 win. Cerny is currently preparing for his nation's National League games, with the Czech Republic facing Georgia and Ukraine in their group. And he admitted he was taken aback by the passion of his first Old Firm encounter and had no complaints about the outcome. He said, "We didn't do well at all. They outclassed us in everything. Now we have to catch them at any cost. That's our main goal. I haven't seen such a rivalry for a long time. Of course, I never played for Sparta Prague or Slavia Prague in their derby, but compared with our main derby, it is far bigger and more brutal." However, despite that defeat, 26-year-old Cerny insists he can't wait for a crack at the Europa League with Rangers due to face English giants Manchester United and Spurs in their fixtures, after admitting he was disappointed Rangers crashed out of the Champions League. He said, "I am happy there at Rangers so far. I'm playing in Europe, which I wouldn't have got at Wolfsburg, and my own personal situation on the pitch is good too, which is what I wanted. We are disappointed to go out of the Champions League because it was hugely affected by the meaningless red card we got. It was a shame we lost in such a way, but at least we were able to go straight to the Europa League after that. The draw is wonderful. I'm most looking forward to playing against the big names, of course, but also the atmosphere at home games. It will be a great experience. I wouldn't say leaving Wolfsburg was inevitable, but it was my wish. And I am very glad that a club like Rangers entered into negotiations with me, and then it went quickly. For me, it was an obvious choice. A lot of people ask me about the Scottish League, and I would like to say that I don't think it is significantly different from other top European competitions. There are obviously better quality clubs and lesser quality ones. The top 4 teams in Scotland at least all have great football quality. Now I hope to be involved in the national team. I played against Georgia from the start at the Euros this summer, but was substituted. But we dominated them, and if we do it again in our next game against them, we can win. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the sport section. It was written by Mark Walker, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 5th of August 2024. From the sport section. Urgent warning ahead of Scotland game in Glasgow tonight. This article was written by Ben Waddle, and it's being read by me, Corey. I apologise, but the usual reader had an emergency and is unable to read today. An urgent traffic warning has been issued ahead of Scotland's match in Glasgow tonight. The game, which will see Scotland take on Poland, is set to take place at Hampden Park in the south side at 7:45 p.m. Ahead of it, Traffic Scotland has warned road users that traffic is expected to be heavier on the M8 and M74 motorways, Due to this, motorists are being urged to arrive on time and plan ahead if heading to the clash. A spokesperson for Traffic Scotland said, "Nations League is back at Hampden. Scotland take on Poland at Hampden Park this September 5th at 7:45 p.m. Make sure you arrive on time and #plan ahead, with traffic expected to be heavier on the M8 and M74. We previously reported that ScotRail issued a travel advice for footy fans heading to Hampden Park for the game. Ahead of the event, football fans have been warned to expect longer queuing times and to allow extra time when catching train services. Meanwhile, ScotRail says to help supporters travel to the match, they are adding extra services between Glasgow Central and Mount Florida, which is the closest station to the stadium. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the sport section. It was written by Ben Waddle, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 5th of August 2024. From the sport section. Former Celtic talent hoping to revive career with Saudi move. This article is written by Lana McKay and read by me, Corey. I apologise, it is not your usual reader. He had an emergency and was unable to read today. Former Celtic talent Vincent Angelini, I apologise if I pronounced that wrong, has completed a move to Saudi Arabia after his contract expired at Brentford. The 20-year-old goalkeeper agreed to a 2-year deal with Al Riyadh this week, joining the Saudi Pro League side as a free agent. Angelini, the grandson of Celtic legend Davy Hay, left the Hoops 2 years ago, after a decade working his way up through the ranks in the club's youth system. After a couple of short stints at English clubs, the youngster will be hoping a fresh start in Saudi can rejuvenate his career. Having left Celtic to join Watford at the age of 17, Angelini played for the Hornets under-21s, but was unable to secure any game time in the first team. After just 18 months at Vicarage Road, he then moved to Brentford's B team, where he also failed to make any first-team appearances, and he was released by the club at the end of last season. News broke of 2003-born Angelini's move to the Middle East late on Tuesday night, with the 20-year-old posting on his Instagram account on Wednesday, excited for this new chapter, ready to get to work. The young goalkeeper has represented Scotland at under-21 level, making his debut in March of 2023. Al Riyadh finished 14th in the 18-team Saudi Pro League last season, with a goal difference of -24. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the sports section. It was written by Lana McKay and read by me, Corey.
From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 6th of September, from the sports section. Celtic announce unusual mid-season friendly in Ireland. Article written by Ewan Payton. Celtic have announced a slightly unusual mid-season friendly in Ireland next month. The Scottish Premiership champions will travel to the Republic to take on Sligo Rovers next month. Brendan Rodgers and his players will make their way across the Irish Sea for a friendly match on Wednesday, October the 9th. The game will kick off at 7:30 p.m. at the Showgrounds, which is just miles away from the birthplace of Celtic founder Brother Walfred. Rodgers said, "When you're working at a club like Celtic, you're reminded every day of its history, so it's great to be able to visit and play in Sligo, a place where the club has so many amazing links. The game takes place during the international window, so it'll be a good workout for the first team players who aren't involved with their countries that week. We know that it's a huge Celtic following in Ireland, nowhere more so than the North West, so it'll be a great chance for me to see the players in action. For myself personally, it's always great to go home, so this is a trip I'm really looking forward to. But for everyone else, of course, both sets of fans and both clubs, I know this will be a great occasion. The game will also honour the memory of the late Tommy Gorman, a lifelong Sligo Rovers supporter who was instrumental in initiating this visit before he sadly passed away in June. Rovers boss John Russell commented, "It'll be a great day for both clubs, given the history Celtic have here in Sligo. I'd expect the game to sell out straight away, and it'll be great to see the showgrounds packed to the rafters. It'll be a nice test for our boys to see how they get on against one of the biggest clubs in the world." General admission tickets are priced at €25, and there will be a limited number of concession tickets available at €18 for OAPs/students/over 12s and £12 for under 12s. An article written by Ewan Payton. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 6th of September, from the sports section. Rangers and the £50 million war chest needed to catch Celtic. Report by Ewan Payton. Rangers will need to spend around £50 million in order to catch Celtic. That's the viewpoint of former Ibrox player and manager Graham Souness. While the Scottish football icon doesn't believe the gap between the old firm is as big as has been made out by some, the 71-year-old insists his old team need up to 4 high-quality additions to be able to compete with the Scottish Premiership champions. Souness told William Hill's new podcast, 3 Up Front, "Right now there is a gap between Rangers and Celtic, but it's not insurmountable. 3 or 4 quality signings could make the difference, but Rangers don't have the money right now. If they were to spend £50 million, it'd be nip and tuck between the two of them. Rangers were the same as Liverpool last season. Both could have won the league if they'd won the last 10 games, but neither of them did it. Celtic were the better team, I'm not denying that. I just didn't think that Rangers got pummeled in the Old Firm derby. Jack Butland only had 2 saves to make, although he did need to pick the ball out of the net 3 times. 2 more shots on target all game. Is that a suggestion they were on the back foot? No. That said, Celtic have better strikers than Rangers do right now. Losing yet again is a really bitter pill to swallow for Rangers, but I have been in football a long time, and I know how quickly things change. There was a time when Celtic won 9 titles in a row, and the Rangers fans would have been thinking, this is it, we're never going to win again. They did come back though, and then they went on to win 9 in a row. Rangers just need money now. They finished second last year and spent £40 million in new players. Celtic spent double that and they won the league. They still managed to come second against them despite spending half the money. They just need that influx of money, that's all it is. And that article was written by Ewan Payton. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 6th of September, from the sports section. Scotland 2, Poland 3. Instant reaction to the burning issues. Article written by senior sports writer Graham McGarry. Scotland dragged themselves off the canvas, only to inflict a knockout blow on themselves in a topsy-turvy defeat to Poland. Manager Steve Clarke came into this game under huge pressure, and at least the players did show that they are still fighting for him, as a stirring second-half comeback looked to have earned an unlikely-looking draw. The Poles had punished avoidable mistakes from the Scots in the first half to open up a 2-goal lead. Sebastian Szymanski struck the first blow after an error by Kenny McLean, before Anthony Rawson clumsily conceded a penalty that Robert Lewandowski tucked into the bottom corner to have the Poles sitting pretty at the break. The scoreline was harsh on the Scots, and they came roaring back at the start of the second half to immediately claw one back through Billy Gilmore. As time ticked on, Clarke went for broke, and he was rewarded as substitute Ben Doak played his part in Scott McTominay's leveller. In the dying moments of stoppage time though, Scotland still had one more calamity up their sleeves, and Grant Hanley bundled over Nikola Zalewski to allow the same player to score a heartbreaking winner at the death. Here are the talking points from Hampden. A squad fighting for the manager at least. Before even considering tactics, formations, personnel selections, or even the eventual defeat, the one thing that has to be said that was abundantly clear at Hampden is that Scott Clarke had not lost the dressing room. At 2-0 down at half-time, off the back of the bruising experience in Germany and a run of just 1 win in 12 games, it looked for all the world that Scotland would roll over. The players, though, instead dug deep, roared back into the contest, and showed that for all their faults, The one thing that can't be questioned is their commitment to each other, their manager and their country. But for the self-inflicted wounds, it could, and probably should have been a win for the Scots, but while the stirring comeback may have boosted morale, ultimately it was disappointment again. Clark's evolution on view? The embattled Scotland boss had said this week that the transition to a more forward-thinking national side under his watch would be a process of evolution rather than revolution, and, while he did shift from his preferred back three, the names in the team sheet were more than familiar. In truth, did anyone expect anything else? The success he has had has been centred around a core group that he can generally count upon, and in his hour of need he turned to them once more. With no Callum McGregor to call upon, it was McLean who came into the deep midfield alongside Gilmore, while Ryan Christie, Scott McTominay and John McGinn tried to keep in touch with lone striker Lyndon Dykes. In fairness, the players did seem to be comfortable in the setup and were moving the ball through the pitch quite well. It was individual errors rather than tactics that cost the Scots dearly, and, in fairness, there is little that Clark can do about that. Scots continue to shoot themselves in foot. A case in point was the Poles' early opener. There was a healthy attendance inside Hampden, with the Tartan Army turning out maybe a sign that they were standing by Clark and his side, despite their underperformance at the Euros, and more likely perhaps because the ticket packages for the Nations League were sold prior to the tournament. The atmosphere was rather muted in the home end though, with the Scots being drowned out by the well-oiled visiting supporters for their most part, and the last thing they'll have wanted was to suck any more life from the home end, but they conspired to do exactly that, and it was all so avoidable. McLean sold Gilmore short with a pass into midfield and Poland pounced. Szymanski drove forward into acres of space as the Scots' backs retreated, and he took the invitation to hit a dipping, bouncing shot towards the goal that seemed to deceive Angus Gunn before kissing the post and nestling into the net. Both McLean and Gunn will be disappointed with their roles in the goal. Mixed night for Ralston, but some late redemption. If this was a test of character for those who underperformed in the Euros, then there was nobody who was under more pressure than Ralston to show that he could hack it at this level for his country, and the Celtic right back started the match really well. He won a couple of vital tackles, his distribution was sound, and he looked to have his chest puffed out and a point to prove. Then disaster struck. Zalewski drove into the box with Hanley slow to come out and engage. Ralston tries desperately to get back and succeeded only in clumsily bundling him over to concede the penalty. The award wasn't harsh for the challenge, but the punishment was for Scotland, with Lewandowski sending Gunn the wrong way from the spot. The Scots had been competing well and probably deserved to be level, never mind 2 down, but here they were. Ralston, to his great credit, refused to retreat into his shell, and it was a great moment when he latched onto Ben Doak's pass down the right to square for McTominay to slide home the equaliser. And then it always comes crashing down. Just when it looked as though the Scots had redeemed themselves as a unit, their individual feelings came back to haunt them in devastating fashion. McGinn of all people was caught on the ball in the midfield, and suddenly the Poles were bearing down in the box. It looked as though Hanley had forced Zalewski wide, but a rush of butt to the head would prove costly, as the big defender inexplicably dived in and sent his opponent tumbling. He knew straight away what he had done and held a hand to his face along with 40,000 others. Zalewski rolled home the penalty, and the Scots paid the heaviest price. And that article was written by senior sports writer Graham McGarry. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 6th of September, from the sports section. Scotland striker targets Portugal result after Poland heartbreak. Report by Chief Football Writer Matthew Lindsay. Lyndon Dykes tonight insisted that Scotland can take positives from their second half fight back against Poland and targeted a result against Portugal, despite the Nations League defeat they suffered at Hampden. Birmingham City striker Dykes was devastated when Nikola Zalewski netted a penalty in the 7th minute of injury time to give the visitors a 3-2 triumph in the Group A1 match. He had helped Steve Clarke's men, who fell 2-0 down before half-time, to level the match in the second half, thanks to well-worked goals from Billy Gilmore and Scott McTominay, and felt they deserved a result. But the Australian-born internationalist is confident that Scotland can bounce back from the painful reverse in Lisbon on Sunday, if they cut out their sloppy mistakes at the back and convert their opportunities up front. We thought we were the better team tonight, he said. We worked really hard to get back into the game, started the second half very well. We are just frustrated tonight, obviously, with the way it went. We can't be conceding that many goals. It makes it much more difficult for us as a team. But we've got another game coming up soon, so we can bounce back quick and make sure we're on it on Sunday. That's international football. They're playing top level. We were definitely the better team in the first half, and they scored 2, but that's football. We're losing 2-0. Probably a lot of people thought it was over. We came back to 2-2. We could easily have won it again. We didn't, but still to come back from 2 goals the way we did, we were looking dominant the whole game. We were playing well. So it's definitely in there. I'm fully confident in my team. My teammates have everybody's backs. I'll run for a brick wall for them, and I'm sure they'll do the same for me. So going forward, we're going to be alright. I think we did look dangerous on the attack, but we can't just score on goals and keep conceding as well. It's just one of those nights we have to dust ourselves off and move on. It's the first game. There's lots of positives in there we have to take away. It's the first game, we need to make sure we take the positives instead of the negatives. Diggs felt the tweaks which Clark had implemented in training at Lesserhampton this week helped Scotland to produce a better performance than they did in the Euro 2024 finals in Germany this summer. There's been a few changes on the training pitch and obviously new faces as well, he said. We've been working on a lot of things. I think tonight you can see we're trying to press high and be the dominant team in the ball and try to make chances, and we've done all that. It's just not our night tonight, and, like I said, we have to turn it around for Sunday. The manager made good attacking subs, and at that point we scored the second one. Then the game was kind of end to end. You've seen a few tired legs out there. The third goal obviously was disappointing, but that's football. We're all in it together, we're all teammates. We all have to make sure we bounce back on Sunday and put this one behind us because it was a good performance, but there were mistakes in there. Individually, that was the point that made us lose the game tonight. Dykes missed the Euros after suffering an injury in training before Scotland flew out to Germany, and he admitted that he was pleased to be involved in the national setup once again despite the final outcome. It was nice to be back, he said. It was really good to be out there. Before the kick-off, I was just having a look around. It was just nice to be back. Disappointed about it somehow, but it is what it is. Now I just want to get back to winning games for Scotland, and hopefully that's Sunday. It's not nice to hear that we haven't won a competitive game in over a year, but there's been good performances in there like tonight. But again, obviously we conceded 3 goals which made us lose. We just need to go back to basics. We're a good team. We go to these places because of the players that we have. We've still got the majority of the core of this team still here, so we know what we're capable of. We just have to go back to basics and stick together and be a family like what we are. I'm sure the results come again. Football isn't always easy sailing. An article was written by Matthew Lindsay and read by me, Ian. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 7th of September, from the sports section. Celtic's greats role reversal. How a few steps forward changed the trajectory of McClare's career and won the Scot. A move to Parkhead. By football writer Anthony Haggerty. Brian McClare was just 19 when his football world spun on its axis within a fortnight. McClare had scouts coveting his signature as a schoolboy footballer, and he enjoyed a brief stint with Aston Villa before returning to Scotland in August 1981 to sign for Motherwell, as well as enrol for a computer maths degree at Glasgow University. It was former Rangers manager Jock Wallace who can take all the credit for converting McClare from a midfielder to a striker. In January 1983, Chalky, as he was affectionately known, was about to become a household name in Scottish football after bagging a hat-trick for the Steelmen in a 3-0 win over Rangers, followed by a double against Celtic in a 2-1 victory over the men in green and white. McClare's goals helped Motherwell to stave off relegation, and he headed off to Mexico with Scotland under-19s with a spring in his step. On his arrival back home, he was told to phone Wallace, who gruffly delivered the news that he had been sold for £75,000. He was now given one simple instruction: get your arse to Celtic Park. McClare said, "My football career has been up and down since I was 16. I was at Aston Villa the year they won the English First Division, but I came home and signed for Motherwell part-time as I was also studying at Glasgow University. I was in the Motherwell team with Ali McLeod, and I was out of the team with Davy Hay, and then I was back in the team under him. Then Jock Wallace and Frank Connor took over, and it was kind of a roller coaster for me in terms of my football career, and I was studying at university part-time as well. Jock Wallace came to me one evening and asked if I could play as a forward. I usually played in midfield and I was bemused by it, but I went along with it. I played in a youth cup tie at Kilbowie in Clydebank, which is no longer there, and I scored a hat-trick in a 4-3 defeat. I was thrown into the first team on Saturday playing as a striker. I never trained with the first team as a forward because I was part-time, but I scored the winning goal that Saturday, and from then I had that incredible January where I scored a hat-trick against Rangers and a double against Celtic, which changed my career significantly. I scored a winning goal at Capello and Motherwell got enough points to stay in the Premier Division that season. Things were going okay and I was getting my name in the paper and I was enjoying life. That summer I went away to Mexico with Scotland under-19s, and when I came back I got told to phone Jock Wallace and he told me he had sold me. Jock did not attempt to keep me at Motherwell or tell me I was a good player or anything like that. He just told me in no uncertain terms to head to Celtic Park as Big Billy McNeil was waiting for me. McClare recalls how Lisbon Lion and club legend McNeil lorded over him as he sat at the head of the table. A lesser player might have been overawed, but not McClare. He puts it down to the impetuosity of youth. McClare said, "I drove as fast as I could to Parkhead, even though I had a proper banger as a car. It was a lime green Morris Marina. I was still wondering what was going on as I drove up to the stadium, but a guy called Jim Kennedy was waiting at the door to take me in to meet Billy McNeil. What I remember vividly about that is that he was sitting there behind a lovely wig wooden table with a cracking big chair. He is a tall man anyway, but the chair I was sitting on was distant from the table and a bit lower down. I saw it at Manchester United too, when Sir Matt Busby sat around his desk and the coaches were sitting around their table in their seats, would be at a lower level than his. I remember thinking when I met Billy that I was talking to some kind of football deity as I was looking up and up at Billy. It was all a bit odd, but I was naive enough not to feel threatened by it. Lots of people might have felt isolated despite being in the same room as the Celtic manager at the time. I didn't. McClare went on to enjoy 4 wonderful years at Celtic, and he was top goalscorer in every campaign. He made 204 appearances in all competitions and scored 126 goals. He won the Scottish Cup in 1985 and the Scottish Premier Division in 1986, but many believe that there was scant silverware return for a player of his talents. Ironically, McClare never played for McNeil, as he left to take up the managerial reins at Manchester City in the summer of 1983, but it was a familiar face who took up the cudgels in the shape of former Motherwell boss Davy Hay. McClare was part of the Celtic side that snatched the Scottish Premier Division from Hearts on the last day of the season in a dramatic and thrilling climax, as Hayes men famously triumphed 5-0 against St Mirren, and Hearts lost 2-0 to Dundee at Dens Park to agonisingly lose out on goal difference. Celtic had to reel off 8 wins on the spin to deny the Edinburgh men, but McClare says it was a 1-0 win at Pittodrie against Aberdeen courtesy of a Mo Johnson strike. That was the team's most crucial victory that season. McClare said, "I loved my time at Celtic. I loved every minute of my time there. I won the Scottish Premier Division and the Scottish Cup, and I was the top scorer for the 4 seasons that I was with the club. The abiding and brilliant memory was Love Street 86, as so many people claim that they were there. The generation before mine would claim that they were at Lisbon or 1967 or at Hampden Park for the European Cup semi-final against Leeds United in 1970. If all the people who claimed to have been at Love Street and the ones that I'd actually met were actually there, then there must have been a world record crowd in Paisley that day. I have been so spoiled with my football memories, but winning the title with Celtic in 1986 is such a great memory for so many people. The most significant thing was that we knew we would need to win every game and hoped that Hearts would stumble en route, and we were matching each other stride for stride as we kept winning, but so did Hearts. The turning point for me was when we beat Aberdeen at Pittodrie. Celtic found it a very difficult venue and we usually get pumped up there, but we won 1-0. I felt then that we had a great chance of winning the title once we beat Aberdeen away. That was the game that changed everybody's demeanour at Celtic concerning winning the league. The players felt that we could do it then. Davy Hay was so laid back and all he said was, "We've won that one, let's try and win the next one." He just told us to go out and play our football and enjoy it. He told the players we had a good season regardless of what happened down the title stretch. It turned out to be a wonderful season. McClare has many outstanding highlights with Celtic, not least of which was a 4-goal haul and a 6-2 victory over Dundee. He scored a sensational solo goal against Dundee United and bagged a beauty against Sporting Lisbon during an incredible 5-0 win over the Portuguese side in a UEFA Cup tie at Celtic Park. However, 2 of McClare's best goals seem to have been expunged from memory. Despite netting against Rangers in 2 League Cup finals, 1983 and 1986, he ended up in the losing side. McClare volleyed home to reduce the arrears to 2-1 after Tommy Burns had sumptuously lifted the ball over the Rangers' defence in the 1983 showpiece, but Celtic would go on to lose 3-2. He hammered a screamer into the top corner to make it 1-1 in the 1986 final, only for his side to succumb 2-1. McClare said, "When you get to a certain time, people ask you about certain things, and those 2 goals that I scored at Hampden for Celtic in the League Cup finals that we lost still mean a lot to me. Those games against Rangers at Hampden Park are still special because you got there. I have played in losing cup finals in England too. I don't think I ever lost a semi-final I was involved in, which is not a bad record, and I am very proud of that." And that article was written by Anthony Haggerty. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 7th of September, from the sports section. Clement used to be the solution to Rangers' problems, but is he now the cause of them? Article written by senior football writer Chris Jack. The visit of Motherwell to Ibrox in March should have been a nondescript afternoon for Rangers, a match that was important in that moment but would have been largely forgotten over the passing of time had all gone to form and to plan. In the end, it was not just a blip for Philip Clement's side, it was the beginning of the end of their Premiership title aspirations. 6 months on, it could be said that Rangers had never fully recovered. The Ibrox club had won their 11 previous fixtures and had emerged victorious in 13 of the 14 matches that Clement had taken charge of in Govan. The only black mark on that record was the draw with Aris Limassol that did not prove costly in terms of European progression. The 2-1 defeat to Stuart Kettlewell's side did, though, and Rangers never rebuilt the momentum that has been established following Clement's appointment as Michael Beale's successor. That run had seen Rangers transform from hopeless challengers into potential champions. Heading into that Motherwell match, Clement's side were in fine fettle and on top of the table. Soon, neither of those things were true. Today, they sit 4th in the standings and few people believe they will rise higher than 2nd in the Premiership. The salvage point against Celtic the following month kept the dream alive, but losing to Ross County and Dundee within a matter of days killed it. Rangers ended the season collecting just 6 wins from their last 15 outings, with an Old Firm Scottish Cup final defeat perhaps a fittingly abject way to bring the curtain down on another unsuccessful, unfulfilling campaign. The first 20 games under Clement's guidance had brought 18 wins, but that feels like such a long time ago now. When the 7 fixtures from this term are taken into account, Rangers have a win ratio of just over 40% in all competitions since that Ibrox loss. That is not a temporary dip, it is an alarming slide that has become a pattern. If it is not reversed, a disillusioned support will need no reminding of what happens next. The above expected goals XG trendline, which charts a 10-game average of Rangers' chances created and conceded last season, see graphic, demonstrates that Clement's defence grew increasingly open to high quality chances as the season wore on. Rangers recorded just 3 clean sheets after that Motherwell match. 2 of them came in the Scottish Cup wins over Hibernian and Hearts, while the other was at Dens Park on one of the worst nights of Clement's tenure to date. The summer break may have been a line in the sand and the end of a cycle, but this has not been a fresh start for Rangers in the manner they required. There are new faces, but there are some old mistakes. Clement spoke in the aftermath of the Old Firm defeat last weekend about seeing in January how big the gap the sides is this term. He pointed to the fact that Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers has an established and experienced group of players and referenced the new team that has been built at Ibrox. That previous weekend, the Belgium had stated that Rangers were on the right track following a 6-0 win over Ross County. Clement also reiterated his belief, which he admitted that some people would not have liked, that he expected the best Rangers to be seen in October, November, as his team and his squad looked to improve and evolve this season. Yeah, of course, Clement said when asked if the performance against County was what he had in mind for the style of his side. And then a lot of movement without the ball, but doing things together, not just run to run, in the right positions, taking the right positions, making the right decisions in the final third, because that's what we missed in the St Johnstone game. We had also a lot of good movements. We came a lot of times in the final third, but we were not decisive enough in our choices there. So, it's every time to work on that, to show the images, to explain to the players how to do better, how to have better communication. And like this, to grow as a team, I feel that dressing room hunger is a lot of hunger to become better and to learn every detail. So, we're going to continue this process. It's not that we need to be satisfied now after this victory and we're still there. I saw a lot of things we can do better, and we're going to work on that next week and the next month. Just 8 days on, all the optimism was drained from the support. Once again, Clement finds himself having to pick up a squad and reunite with the fan base. He said there was no other choice but to be patient on Sunday, but the situation is now is very different to the one he inherited almost 12 months ago. This is his team, and these are his performances and results to take ownership of and problems to concerns to address. The answers to all of the ills is simple. If Rangers win games, the noise level will diminish and the criticisms will be enveloped by positivity. Between now and that January Old Firm game, Rangers must not lose further ground in a Celtic side that have started their title defence with a swagger and assurances that Clydemont's side look unable to matching right now. That run from October to March, from the 4-0 thumping of Hibernian to the hammer blow of the defeat to Motherwell, is evidence that Clement knows how to put a prolonged sequence together. The fear, though, is that it could be attributed to the reaction players often show when a new boss arrives. Rangers reverted to type in the face of adversity last term. They are back in that dark place once again after falling 5 points adrift of Celtic and crashing out of the Champions League to Dynamo Kyiv. The reaction now must be better than it was then. The promise of Rangers being a better version of themselves in October and November is worthless to supporters today. The fears over what September will bring during trips to Dundee United and Malmo and Ibrox fixtures with Dundee and Hibernian are well founded. Right now, Rangers do not pass the eye test and the statistics do not offer encouragement either. To say that 3 domestic wins is a non-negotiable target is stating the obvious. The credit that Clement put in the bank during those first months at Ibrox was added to when the League Cup was placed in the trophy cabinet. The last 6 months have seen those reserves whittled away though. The faith that the board have in the boss will not be universally shared by the support. Clement was the answer to the problems this time 12 months ago. As it stands, there are questions over whether he's the cause of them at Ibrox. The solution is easy to say but hard to achieve. Rangers just need to win the games they should be winning. As that Motherwell defeat shows, life is never that simple. In an article written by Chris Jack. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 7th of September, from his sports section. King condemns fan abuse of Rangers captain Tavernier. Report by David Irvin. Former Rangers chairman Dave King has called out a section of Rangers supporters over abuse directed at club captain James Tavernier. The Ibrox skipper was berated by one fan in a viral social media clip in the aftermath of the 3-0 defeat to Celtic last weekend. Footage showed the defender being branded nothing but a F **** loser and repeatedly told to F *** off by a furious supporter outside Ibrox. King, who served as chairman at Ibrox previously, has called for an end to the personal abuse aimed at Tavernier as he hailed the 100% loyal defender who repeatedly saved us in key games for a decade. In a statement to the Rangers Review, King commented commented, "It is incredibly disappointing to hear that a small minority of supporters are letting their anger temporarily overcome them to the point of directing personal abuse at our players. We are all immensely disappointed at the performance of our team and its decline since Title 55. That, however, is not the fault of the present team or the individual players who were approached to play for the club, not the other way round, and who are mostly doing their best. King has insisted the players are not solely responsible for the current troubles at Ibrox and called for the supporters to remain loyal and not turn on players." He continued, "Individual players cannot be held accountable if the combined result of recruitment and team preparation results in poor performance. Rangers supporters are loyal supporters. Turning on our captain, who has been 100% loyal to Rangers and, memories are short, repeatedly saved us in key games for a decade, is the opposite of loyalty, and I hope that most supporters will join me in condemning such behaviour. Supporter anger should not be directed at our team. Our club finds itself in a largely self-inflicted decline, but turning on our own players is not the Rangers' way." In an article written by David Irvin. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 7th of September, from the sports section. Man United legend presented Celtic shirt as he admits transfer wish. Report by David Irvin. Manchester United legend Wayne Rooney was presented with a Celtic shirt ahead of a Legends match on Saturday. The former England player played and scored for a Man United side against Celtic in a fundraising fixture at Old Trafford. Before kick-off, though, Rooney discussed his love for Celtic and was even gifted a shirt with his name and number printed on the back. Upon receiving the personalised Celtic kit, Rooney joked, "I'm not sure whether that will fit me now. Thank you very much for that, I appreciate it. I will put this up in my house." Rooney has previously admitted he wished he could have played for Celtic during his career, and he conceded a transfer move just never worked out during his playing career as he reflected on going up against Celtic for Man United. "Celtic have always been a team I have followed and always wanted them to win," he said. "Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to play for Celtic. I would have liked to at some point and try and play for Celtic. I didn't have the chance, it didn't work out. I think there were always special games against Celtic, all the Celtic fans travelling in their numbers. To go there to Celtic and experience that atmosphere in the Champions League night was special. It's always special playing against Celtic." In an article written by David Irvin and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Herald Scotland, Saturday the 7th of September, from the sports section. Scotland's brothers in arms keen to progress in Naples. Gilmour pleased to be linking up with fellow goalscorer McTominay in Serie A for a new challenge. Report by Chief Football Writer Matthew Lindsay. Billy Gilmour has expressed confidence that playing alongside Scott McTominay at Napoli on a weekly basis will help him to improve as a footballer and benefit Scotland in future, as he looked forward to starting the latest chapter of his career over in Italy. Gilmour and McTominay spearheaded the spirited second-half fight-back which the national team staged during their opening Nations League match against Poland at a packed Hampden on Thursday evening. The former made it 2-1 shortly after half-time when he scored his first goal at the Mount Florida venue, while the latter levelled the Group A1 encounter when he netted with 14 minutes of regulation time remaining. The duo's endeavours ultimately proved in vain. The penalty that Nikola Zalewski netted in the 7th minute of injury time after he had been needlessly brought down by Grant Hanley meant the visitors won 3-2. It was a desperately disappointing end to a game in which Scotland, seeking to get to the pain of the Euro 2024 finals in Germany this summer out of their system, could and really should have taken something from. However, the displays of Gilmour and McTominay, who both struggled to perform to the high level they are capable of in June, in the middle of the park, were hugely positive. The Scots joined Serie A giants Napoli in the final days of the transfer window last month, and the former Rangers, Chelsea and Brighton man is eagerly anticipating playing abroad with his compatriot in the months ahead. "I'm excited," he said. "It's a new challenge, a new culture. I'm looking forward to that. I just got beaten with Scotland, so it's a bit disappointing and hard to think about that right now. But it will definitely help me with Scott being out there too. Scott is a good mate, so both of us out there can hopefully try to progress and get better. I spoke to a couple of the boys who are over in Italy. We've got some in the squad here as well, so I spoke to them. They said it's a very good league and I'm looking forward to it. As I say, I'm excited. Gilmore formed a new Scotland central midfield partnership with Kenny McLean against Poland as manager Steve Clarke switched to a 4-2-3-1 formation and enjoyed the experience. He fully expects his former Norwich City teammate to establish himself as a regular starter there. Now Celtic captain Callum McGregor has retired from international football. Kenny helped me during my time at Norwich and was very good with me, he said. When Callum was still here, there was a lot of competition in the midfield. And even now there's still competition with Connor Barron coming in. But there's a lot of chances to go and show the manager what we're capable of. Kenny's a top player. He's been in here, he's done it, he does it at his club every week. When he comes onto the pitch and when he starts, he always gives 100%. You could see in his performances how good he was last night. Gilmore argued that, despite the defeat as they returned to action after the Euros, there were some encouraging signs during the Poland game. He certainly felt that debutants Ben Doak and Ryan Gold acquitted themselves well when they came on during the second half, and is interested to see what they can now contribute in the difficult fixture with Portugal in Lisbon tomorrow evening. It was a tough one to take, he said. We felt that in the first half as well we were good in spells, but I think we came out after half time and showed what we're capable of. We'll reflect on it. We've got another tough game coming up, but it's a disappointing one to take. Yes, there were a couple of mistakes that led to the goals, but we'll look back at that as a team, look at where we could have been better. I think it's a tough one to take right now because we felt like we controlled the game in spells. Getting beat is disappointing. I'm obviously happy with the goal, but we've got beat, so maybe it's not the best thing to think about too much. Ultimately, the result is the most important thing. But I think we all have a good account of themselves on the pitch. We played well, and the result was down to some silly mistakes from ourselves. We watched that back and we got better. Poland are a top team, and we've got another tough game coming up against Portugal. We'll regroup. We've been in this position before, and we believe in ourselves to go on and win the next game. We were disappointed with the way we went out, but I think in the games there was good stuff as well. Of course, we're not happy. We wanted to progress in group stages, and that's the next step for us. We've got really good players on the team. They are all different. Ben Doak is a rapid winger, and Ryan Gold is similar and does it over MLS every week. For them to come in freshens things up. So, we're all excited to see what the Portugal game holds. An article was written by Matthew Lindsay and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 9th of September, from the sports section. Celtic is a tough place to be. Former player and high expectations. Report by Joe Donnelly, audience and content editor, Sport. Former Celt Stuart Armstrong has spoken about the high expectations faced by Celtic players on a daily and weekly basis. Having left English Premier League side Southampton during the summer transfer window, the Scotland international is signed for MLS side Vancouver Whitecaps on a 2-year deal. Speaking to his new club's official website, via 67 Hail Hail, Armstrong addressed his time in Glasgow's East End. He said, Celtic is a very tough place to be, especially when things aren't going well. When I first moved there, I had a rough start, but then things really started to click. Winning the Invincible treble was one of the highlights of my career. It was amazing. We qualified for the Champions League and faced the pressure of winning every single week. To win 2 trebles in a row was incredible, and then I left, and I think they won another treble. It's an incredible club with incredible fans. The feeling you get playing at the stadium is top notch. Armstrong may have ultimately landed in Canada, but another former Celt, Chris Sutton, tipped his Celtic return as an outside bet this summer. Prior to Brendan Rodgers securing the return of Paulo Bernardo, Sutton said, Armstrong is another one who won't be short of offers this summer. He has been a very good player for Southampton, and I'd expect a queue of clubs at the top end of the Championship who would love to have him on board. Armstrong might be 32 years old now, but he looks after himself and has plenty left in the tank. He would be a very good signing for Celtic, perhaps one that could fill the void left by Aaron Mooy last year. I've said before that we shouldn't assume Matt O'Reilly is going, but Celtic will still need another attacking midfielder. O'Reilly, of course, did leave Celtic, and Bernardo likewise returned. Rodgers further strengthened the Hoops midfield with the addition of Aaron Engels, and that report was by Joe Donnelly. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 9th of September, from the sports section, Angus Gunn on Fernandes' goal and Steve Clarke's dressing room message. Article written by chief football writer Matthew Lindsay. Angus Gunn tonight held his hands up and admitted he should have done better at the Bruno Fernandes goal he conceded in Scotland's agonising 2-1 defeat to Portugal in Lisbon. However, the Norwich City goalkeeper, who produced several outstanding saves during the course of the Nations League encounter in Estadio da Luz, insisted the national team deserved to take something from the game, and he argued the display against the former European champions in the Group 1 fixture augurs well for the future and shows they will be able to put their Euro 2024 disappointment firmly behind them in the coming months. The first one was coming through a lot of bodies, he said. I got there and was probably a little bit frustrated with that one. I take that on the chin. I think when you get that amount of contact on it, you're obviously disappointed as a keeper, but it's come through bodies. I feel like I did get a little bit of my hand to it. I will be disappointed with that. Obviously, I'll analyse it with the coaches and come back stronger. Gunn added, but there were definitely moments in the game where I was happy with how I did. I thought we defended really well. They've got some quality players and we limited them. We kept them down the sides. Unfortunately, in the end the pressure told. We were disappointed that we didn't hold on. But the manager said in there, keep your heads up, keep believing. The last few performances have actually been very positive. Even though we've not picked up any points, in the Poland game we probably dominated the second half and deserved something from that game. Then we come here to one of the best teams in Europe and put on a performance like that. We've got to take positives from that. The team we're trying to build, looking to the next World Cup qualifying campaign. If we can come here and put on performances like that, that will put us in good stead for that one coming up. Gunn praised the travelling Scotland supporters for their backing against Portugal and admitted he was heartened when they applauded the national team off the park after the final whistle. I think they always come in numbers, he said. To be fair, it was quite hard to see them with the floodlights up in the top, but they were brilliant. I feel like they'll be proud tonight because the performance we put on against such a good team. There really is a lot of positives to take from it. And that report was by Matthew Lindsay. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 9th of September, from the sports section. Lustig hails Celtic teammates who can drive Champions League success. Report by Joe Donnelly. Former Celtic defender Michael Lustig played his part in some huge Champions League matches during his time in Glasgow's East End, and now the retired Swede looks forward to watching on as a fan this season. When he does, the 37-year-old is certain two of his ex-colleagues will play a big part in the current squad's success in European football's flagship competition, James Forrest and Callum McGregor. Having signed for Celtic in 2012, Lustig saw the rise of both players under previous managers and is well aware of how important they are to Brendan Rodgers' current first team as veteran figures. Speaking after Saturday's Celtic v Manchester United Legends charity match at Old Trafford, as per the Daily Record, Lustig said, "If you take Jamesy, Forrest, I spoke with him a lot. He probably felt like his Celtic career might have been coming to an end. But it's football, it is crazy. He wasn't involved in the squads for a while and might have gone away, but suddenly you start playing again. The way he started this pre-season, he was just flying, and I think it's really important to have those sort of players in the group who have been there a while, such as Jamesy and Callum McGregor. You learn a lot from being in the Champions League, and you need to be there a lot to learn a lot. So I think Brendan Rodgers is more experienced in it now and has a really good squad. The start of the season has been brilliant, and when I look at the teams they are going to play, I fancy a win in a lot of games. Lustig added, they can be solid in the defence, and they can be really good in the ball as well. Of course, I know it is different to play in the Champions League compared to when playing in the Scottish matches. I'm not going to say that every game is easy, because it is not, but it feels something extra special when you go to Europe, like this is a game where you need to win. So I hope the players will look at each other and know they are good. And that report was by Joe Donnelly. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 9th of September, from the sports section. Portugal 2, Scotland 1. Instant reaction to the burning issues. Report by Matthew Lindsay. A Cristiano Ronaldo strike with less than 3 minutes of regulation time remaining tonight denied Scotland a gutsy draw against Portugal, which would have done much to restore pride in the national team after their Euro 2024 failure in the summer. The 39-year-old global football superstar turned in a Nuno Mendes cross from a few yards out in the Estadio de Luz to secure a hard-fought 2-1 victory for his country in the Nations League match. Steve Clarke's men, who had taken the lead early on through Scott McTominay and competed ferociously thereafter until allowing Bruno Fernandes to level in the second half, have now gone a full year without winning a competitive fixture. However, their performance here in Lisbon gave their supporters, who were despondent after their early exit in Germany back in June, much to be optimistic about. They were applauded off the park by the Tartan Army at the end despite the reverse. Here are 5 talking points from another Scottish heartbreak. Vast improvement. Clarke stuck with the same starting lineup which he had taken to the field in midweek against Poland at Hampden. Many fans had been eager to see Lawrence Shankland or even Tommy Conway receive the nod up front. Ben Doak and Ryan Gold handed a chance to show what they could do in the final third from the start, and Conor Barron given his first cap in midfield. But you could understand the manager's reluctance to experiment and desire to put his faith in his more experienced campaigners, given the calibre of the opposition. His charges justified his loyalty by forging in front and successfully repelling repeated Portuguese attacks thereafter. Scotland broke the deadlock with a goal which came straight off of the training ground. Captain Andy Robertson laid the ball back to Kenny McLean, and his teammate curled a first-time cross into the 6-yard box. McTominay ghosted in and nodded beyond Diego Costa to stun the crowd into silence. Apart from, that is, the travelling supporters high in the stand at the other end of the ground, the Tartan Army had travelled to Lisbon in their thousands in the hope their heroes could get back to their best. They were not disappointed by what they witnessed. Scotland's preparations for this outing were far from ideal. Their flight out of Glasgow was delayed by a barrage carousel problem. Then they had a 2-hour bus journey after they landed at an airport that was over 100 miles away from their destination. But they rose to the occasion in stunning fashion this evening. It was not perfect by any means, and the final scoreline was obviously a sickener, but it was a step in the right direction. Sir Scott of McTominay. What more is there left to say about that man McTominay? The Napoli new boy became a hero in his adopted homeland when he netted no fewer than 7 times in Euro 2024 qualifying last year, including a double and a historic win over eventual champion Spain at Hampden. But he has not let up any since. The 27-year-old was on target for the second time in 4 days after making a perfectly timed back post run. He was comfortable inside. He took his international tally to 11 with his latest goal and moved alongside Colin Steen and Alan Gilzine in the all-time Scotland scoring charts. You would not bet against him adding to his haul. The former Manchester United midfielder was deployed in an advanced role just off Lyndon Dykes and caused the Portugal defence all kinds of problems with his powerful forward runs. He was unfortunate not to add a second when he tested Costa from distance. Gun grit. Scotland were always going to have to withstand periods of intense pressure and ride their luck a little against Portugal, but they defended manfully throughout and frustrated their fated adversaries repeatedly. Grant Hanley and Scott McKenna were excellent in the centre of the rearguard. Angus Gunn, the Norwich City goalkeeper who has come in for criticism from fans and pundits for some of his recent displays, also did well. He pushed a Rafael Leo attempt that was destined to finish in the bottom right corner of his goal, past the post, palmed a Diego Jota header wide and punched a Fernandes cross to safety. The Norwich City man could and should have done better at the equaliser, but he redeemed himself by denying João Felix twice, first after the Chelsea player had been put through by a cheeky Ronaldo back heel, and then when the forward got a header on target. He could do nothing about the winner. CR7 class. Ronaldo, who scored his 131st international goal in his 213th appearance for his country in the 2-1 triumph for Croatia on Thursday night, may have been left on the bench this evening. But Roberto Martinez has the luxury of being able to rest the 5 times Ballon d'Or winner. He is not exactly short of options. He fielded a front three which comprised Leo of AC Milan, Jota of Liverpool and Pedro Neto of Chelsea. It was a £125 million forward line. Their rivals played Dykes, who moved to League One outfit Birmingham City for £1 million last month, in attack. When Neto cut in from the right flank and played a defence-splitting through ball into Jota in just the second minute, you feared the worst for the visitors. But the hosts, seeking to recover from their disappointing Euros, struggled to break them down. Ronaldo came on for Neto to a huge ovation from the home supporters in the 65,000 capacity arena at the start of the second half, as Ruben Neves took over from João Paulinho. His presence appeared to lift those around him. He hit the post and then grabbed the winner in typical fashion. Kenny Clark. The Scotland manager was savaged by supporters after his team lost to Hungary in their final Euro 2024 game and failed to go through to the last 16. His tactics were branded overly negative, and many disgruntled fans demanded he be sacked by the SFA. However, the former Newcastle United, Chelsea and Liverpool assistant got his team and his game plan spot on tonight. What is more, his charges showed they are firmly behind him by executing his instructions to the letter and running from kick-off to the final whistle. He showed he is not afraid to bring new faces into the fray by putting on goals for McLean, Conway for Dykes and Lewis Morgan for Ryan Christie in the closing stages. This vastly improved showing augurs well for the future. And that report was written by Matthew Lindsay and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 9th of September, from the sports section. Rangers star Nedhim Bajrami singled out by Albania boss Silvinho. Report by Mark Walker. Rangers new boy Nedhim Bajrami has been singled out by Albania boss Silvinho after an impressive display for his country. Albania came from behind to beat Ukraine in a neutral venue in Prague in their Nations League game, and Bajrami was in fine form. Rangers snapped him up before the transfer deadline from Sassuolo, and he could make his debut this weekend away to Dundee United. And Albania's Brazilian boss Silvinho was impressed with the Ibrox signing. He said, "I thought the performance from Nedhim Bajrami against Ukraine was outstanding. He's clearly a big talent." Silvinho added, "We were very satisfied with Bajrami's performance. He can play in many roles for us. I have noticed that his all-round game has improved. He can do a lot with the ball. He helped us produce a really excellent result against a huge nation like Ukraine. We continue to improve, and I think that was one of our best results in recent years." And that report was written by Mark Walker and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Monday the 9th of September, from the sports section. Steve Clarke reckons Scotland deserves something from Portugal clash. An article first published on the 8th of September, written by Robbie Hanratty. Steve Clarke believes Scotland deserves to leave Lisbon with a point after Cristiano Ronaldo's late goal completed a Portugal turnaround and left the Scots bottom of their UEFA Nations League group. Clark's men are amidst a disappointing run that's seen them go winless from their last 8 competitive fixtures. They have also conceded an incredible 33 goals in their previous 14 games. Stats that don't reflect the positive energy that swarmed the nation prior to Euro 2024 this summer. Speaking after a game which his side led for 54 minutes before losing 2 cheap goals, including yet another sucker punch right at the death, the Scotland manager said, "I thought for a long period of time that we were going to get something from the game. I'm really disappointed for my players because of the effort and the quality they put into the game, deserve to get something from it. I think there's a lot of positives if we can ignore the results. We are professionals, so it's disappointing to come out of the 2 games where I feel we played well in both games and don't have anything to show for it. It's a level where the lessons are harsh, but it's important. I spoke to the players about it in the dressing room, not be too hard on themselves. Obviously disappointed, but they have to understand the work that we are doing, and I think if you look at the amount of time that we had to work. In the summer it was a back 3, we decided to change the system a little for these 2 matches, and I think you can see the players have done good work. Like I say, that's why I'm so disappointed for them, because they have put so much into these 2 games. They want to win, they want to do well for the country. That's the nature of the squad of players that we've got." There was no sense of bravery and urgency on the ball evident during his international window that was nowhere to be seen at the European Championships. Asked if his message towards his players had changed amid a notable formation tweet due to the absences of Kieran Tierney and Aaron Hickey, Clark stated, "We just, as you always do at the end of a journey, which was the Championships in the summer, is, you go away, you have to analyse everything. I have to analyse myself, my staff, the players, and then you have to decide what the reset is. Then you have to explain that to the players, and then, like I say, we look to try to improve and build what we do. I'm very honest with my players, and they are very honest with me, and I think when you have that relationship with your players, then you can do what we've done in a short space of time. But then, we want to do it again when we get together at the next camp. We've got a little bit longer, so we might manage to get 3 training sessions in before we go onto the pitch. It gives us more time so myself and the coaches can go away and analyse the game, the Portugal game, and hopefully we can give the lads a few more pointers in the 2 games next month, which don't get any easier. Portugal at Hampden and Croatia away." Clark repeatedly referenced that Scotland were embarking on a new cycle as they strive to make their mark in the top tier of the Nations League while looking towards the 2026 World Cup. I reiterated to the players that they have to understand what part of the cycle we are in, what we're trying to do, the ex-Kilmarnock boss continued. We're trying to readjust a little bit after the summer. We can use these matches to try to build and make sure the end goal, as always, is qualification for a tournament for a country like Scotland. It would have been nice to get some points and not to concede late goals, but this is the level that we're at, because we have been a good team and we've managed to get to the top level of the Nations League. The players understand how difficult it is to get results at this level. Portugal head coach Roberto Martinez praised the attitude of his players after substitutes Nuno Mendes and Ronaldo combined for the winner. "We had a difficult match, it was quite a challenge," Martinez said. "Scotland are physical, strong, they attack very fast. We have shown the dressing room has a group of more than 11 players who are prepared to help the squad and who give everything to the end." And that report was written by Robbie Hanratty. That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels @Q&Review and to tell your friends about our service.